Hello, second graders. Mrs. Hagedorn here with another math lesson. Today we're going to be learning how to subtract from 1,000. And as we get started, it kind of occurred to me that we really haven't used that number when we have been subtracting or even really adding and showing it with our proof picture. So I have here in front of me, I've just written down 10 hundreds. And if I have 10 hundreds and I'd ask you to draw a proof picture, you would know that you would make a square like this, and that is 100. So now this would be 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and 1,000. When we are using our math number pieces and we have 10 hundreds or 1,000, we will represent it in a proof picture with a long rectangle. I'm making a little bit big and exaggerated right now, but all of those 10 hundreds would go into what would be represented in our proof picture as 1,000. So let's go on to our story problem today so we can learn how we're going to be representing when we're doing subtraction numbers with 1,000. Miss Brackett has 1,000 pennies in her jar. She gives some to Mrs. Voling. Now she has 412 left. How many pennies does Miss Brackett give Mrs. Voling? Well, again, I think it's going to be important for me to think about how I can make a picture here. And I am not comparing anything. This sounds like I've got two parts and a total. And I believe that my total is the 1,000. So it's going to go at the top of my math mountain. And then it says that she gave Miss Voling some pennies. I don't know how many pennies she gave Miss Voling, but she has 412 pennies left. So when I make my math mountain, it would look like that. If I was writing an equation, I could write my equation with 1,000 minus unknown equals 400. Oops. Come on, Mrs. Hagedorn, you know better. Make sure you keep your pencil, your numbers lined up. 412. All right, or I could write it as 1,000 minus 412 equals unknown. So we're going to go to our first strategy here, which is our open number line. And I'm going to first make my open number line. And I am working with pennies, as we know. And I am going to know that Miss Brackett has or had 1,000 pennies. And right now, she still has 412. So I need to add on to see how much she actually gave to Miss Voling. So again, I'm going to look at my 412 and I'm going to make it to the next 10. So I know that 412 plus 8 would take it to 420. Then I know that when I'm at 420, I want to go to my next 100, which would be 500. And to get from 420 to 500, I'm going to add 80. And then from 500 to 1,000, I'm going to add another 500. And then that will help me find my answer. She must have gave Miss Voling 588 pennies. 588 pennies. I noticed in my last video I kept forgetting the label. I know better than that. Another strategy that many of you have used in class that seems to be super helpful for you is the add up strategy. So again, if we know that Miss Brackett still had her 412, we need to add up to the unknown to the starting amount of 1,000 pennies. So she would have her 412. Again, I'm going to go to the next 10. So 412 plus 8 is going to take me to 420. 420, make it to the next 100 another 80 more to get it to 500. And if I'm at 500 and I want to get all the way up to that 1,000, I'm going to have to add another 500. And again, you can see where I've done my math, and it has 588 pennies. Wow, Mrs. Voling is very lucky to get those 588 pennies. All right, the last way I'm going to show you is with a proof picture with the expanded method. And this can get very cumbersome. So honestly, friends, I think these two ways are probably some of your more successful ways of doing this. But I'm going to just write it out so that you can follow along, and it might be confusing, as I said, right away at first. So if I have 1,000, and I am going to subtract 412. And like I said, this gets a little bit drawn out, but for some people it helps with place value. So my 1,000, I would have 1,000. I don't have any in the hundreds place. I don't have any in the tens place. And I don't have any in the ones place. Okay? In 412 expanded, I don't have any in the thousands place. I do have 400 in the hundreds place. I have 10, 110 in the tens place, and I have 2 ones. So again, if I had my big proof picture, that's what I would have started with, is my 1,000. And this is where it's going to get a little tricky, so please try to stay with Mrs. Hagedorn. I would first ask myself, do I have enough ones? Well, I don't have enough ones. Do I have enough tens? I don't have enough tens either. Do I have enough hundred? Well, not at this time, not unless I ungroup this big 1,000. All right, so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to ungroup my 1,000. And I would have to make my 10 100s. Okay, so at this time I have ungrouped my 1,000, and I have 10 100s, which is worth actually 1,000, 10 100s. I am now going to need to continue ungrouping, and I'm going to have to ungroup a 100 or to get to my tens. So I ungroup a 100, and I can get to 10 tens. So now I have 900 tens, and I have 10 tens, which is worth 100. But I still need to break apart 100 to get to the ones. So now I broke apart my 100, and I have my 10 ones, which means I now have 9 tens or 90 and 10 ones. If you look here, second graders, you can see that this number up here in my expanded form, 900 plus 90 plus 10, all still does equal that original 1,000. Okay, so now that I have done all of my ungrouping with my proof picture, I can actually start to subtract. So I'm first going to take away my 2 ones from my 10, and notice that I now have 8 ones. I'm going to take my 10 away from my 9 tens. So 90, take away 10, and I have 8 tens or 80. And then I have my 90 excuse me, not 90, 900, and I'm going to take away my 400, and I have 500, no thousands, so it comes back here to 588. So just kind of wanted to show you and show your parents where our thinking is headed so that they can start to understand and you can start to understand where all these numbers are coming from. Like I said, this was a lot more complex than adding up method or the open number line. So good luck today with subtracting with hundreds and subtracting from 1000s. I can't wait to see your thinking.